Welcome back to another week of the Black Gay Agenda. It's your boy, Michael Butler.
You got Alex here.
I'm Justin B. Smith.
I'm Ryan Lewis.
And we are super excited for another week. First of all, we want to thank y'all because y'all made last week's debut episode our biggest debut episode ever. We got to 100 listens within the first couple of days of the podcast being out, and it's still climbing. So thank you. What we need you to do now, though, we need you to go and follow us on Instagram. All right, so follow us on Instagram at Black Gay Agenda Pod. That's Black Gay Agenda Pod. And just don't follow us. When you go ahead and you follow us, make sure that you hit that notification bell. So when we do post, you can get our posts because Instagram has been weird these past couple of days. So we want to make sure that you can get in there. Also, we're on TikTok now. We're going to start uploading the videos over on TikTok. So go follow Black Gay Agenda. It's not Black Gay Agenda Pod. It's Black Gay Agenda on TikTok. All right. Now that all of that is out the way, real quick before we get into some things, how are y'all feeling today? How was your week? How's your weekend? What's new? Let's do a real quick life update. Starting with you, Alex.
So first, I just got back from driving 12 hours, 11 hours, to help my friend bring his car back here from Philadelphia.
Yikes.
And now I got a little bit of a cold. You probably can hear it in my voice. My voice is a little rough because he works.
I thought you was giving trade.
Yeah, same.
Anyway. I'm just saying, I'm a baritone naturally.
Period.
But yeah, just that, man. I'm drinking my tea and my ginger and that good stuff. But yeah, man, getting through that and enjoying this weather. This weather is amazing.
Yes,
it's been beautiful.
Because I was over there, it was good. I love every bit of it. It's still up and down for us though. But other than that, man,
yeah, definitely. Awesome. Justin, how you feeling? What's new? What's good? What's going on in your life?
Yes, I'm always feeling abundant for the most part, but I'll be tired. I do a lot of. Last week, I've done a lot of public speaking. So I spoke on different panels last week, all educational and for the community, because period. And I also had a great weekend though. I got on the midst of my academia and shit like that. I'm still that girl who love to be social and love to be out and with the crop tops on. Crop tops and low rise pants is like my theme for this summer. So the video will be out. But I got to actually, just hang out with some friends and be with people who I feel safe around, and got to be in some spaces that I felt safe at. And yeah, it was overall a really busy and tiring week, but the weekend kind of carried it for me. So yeah, that's how I'm good overall though. Thank you for asking.
That's awesome, Justin. That's awesome. Keep pressing, keep pushing. This is you're going to continue to be booked and busy with your speaking engagement. So keep it up. Ryan Lewis, we missed you last week. You were out the country selling the seven C's. The very butch owner filled in for you. We had a good old gay time with Slater last week. But tell us, how was your vacation? How you feeling?
I feel very refreshed. Also, just trying to get back into the swing. I have a lot of work engagements and trying to get back into the swing with Ryan Out Loud after taking a little short time off. But my vacation was good. I did a cruise. Let's see, where did I go? To Nassau, Half Moon, and Grand Turks. And it was fun. It was my first cruise. I usually do all inclusive, go to the island, just settle there. So this was my first cruise. It was fun. It was an experience. It was very refreshing, very needed. Spent it with my two childhood best friends of 20 years.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And yeah, so we just caught up and just enjoyed. It was her birthday on the 1st of April. So we were just celebrating life, and our friendship and love and all of that good stuff. So it's good to be back. Shout out to Slater, and thank you, Slater, for the hat. Got in touch with. I was like, period. I was always going to get one eventually, so I got two now. So thank you. It's good to be back. Missed you guys.
Yes, I'm glad that you have fun vacationing, and I'm glad you didn't go to Bali. Everybody seems to be going to Bali these days to go visit Russell's Russell Simmons. Who was that who just went? It was Lisa Ray just went.
Okay.
Was she visiting him?
I mean, she saw him while she was there.
Oh,
just like Usher.
Where is the PR team? Where are they? They on vacation?
Damage control.
Like, come on, babes. Like, if you visit him, like, listen,
but
I'll visit you. I might visit you, but I sure won't post it.
That's why I'm quiet. That's why I'm quiet as fuck. Because if I had a one-way flight over there, I'd go.
Not to visit Russell Simmons, you wouldn't?
I'd go for the scenery.
Oh yeah, them pictures be bomb. But I wouldn't. If he was a friend,
like I said, if he was a friend, I might go. But the pictures, y'all would not. Them pictures would not see the light of day. We wouldn't take pictures.
I don't even think we would take pictures.
Because I don't want you to think that you could post the pictures.
Okay.
But I'm doing good. Just plowing through a bunch of production stuff. There's some shifts coming with the Convos for the Culture platform. We're changing up some stuff. Convos for the Culture is wrapping up the season after it just started, because we're going more to focusing on the media platform, and then focusing on, so it just won't be a podcast anymore, but we'll still be pushing out a bunch of interviews. Okay. So everybody who listens to this, make sure that you go ahead and you follow that platform as well, because you may see some other things shifting over there as well. But other than that, outside of that, I'm just out here living life, working hard, but playing hard too. So working in the gym hard, working at the restaurant hard, and then just being outside, going out, self dates, dates with other people. You feel me? Just enjoying life. We work hard a lot of times, and I tell people all the time, like, you got to enjoy life. You got to enjoy life, because you only got one life, and it's good to save money. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes you gotta spend that money, because if you check up out of here tomorrow, nobody's gonna care that you got 20,000 in your bank account. Nobody's gonna care, and you can't do anything with it. And then your family's gonna be fighting over it, probably, because most of y'all don't got wills. But that's another conversation for another time. Yes. All right. This week we're gonna be talking about something pretty important. I think it's a conversation that we as a community ignore a lot, but I really feel like we got to talk about it. And it's this episode is the domestic violence agenda. Okay. So on April 9th, Carlos Collins, he's a 25-year-old out of Jackson, Mississippi, right? Yeah, Jackson, Mississippi. He was brutally murdered by his ex-boyfriend, Marcus Johnson, who was also a former Jackson police officer, right? He was with the Jackson PD, but he actually got dismissed from the Jackson PD due to inappropriate behavior, violent behavior. Okay. But yeah, he murdered him at the Tapestry Northridge Apartments, Parkway Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Long story short, if you go to our page, Black Gauge in the Pod, you can see the story that we ran on there. But basically, they were dating at one point. They broke it off. That's not uncommon for a relationship, right? And then Marcus Johnson proceeded to stalk Carlos Collins. Carlos had a restraining order against him, and obviously that restraining order was not honored, because the security guards at the establishment that they were both at, it was a club, I think, or a bar, M-Bar. Basically what they told Carlos was that since he didn't have the documents on hand, there was nothing that they could do. He was followed back home. Some of the stories that I've read and news reports was that he also Marcus also put one of those air tags on his car. So he had been following him and been tracking his locations. He didn't know. Listen, family, make sure it may seem crazy, it may seem paranoid, but every once in a while, check your cars, okay? Because we know this is something happening. Check your cars, just make sure visually inspect the side, the undercarriage, all of that. But
and if you have an iPhone too, just a sidebar, if you have an iPhone, there's a notification that'll come up, a tracking notification that'll let you know that somebody else's device, either their AirPods or if it's an AirTag that's on you, it'll tell you too. So that's good to look at too.
So please do that. But long story short, he was brutally murdered. We won't get into the details because I'm not trying to sensationalize it. But once again, you can find those details on our page. So I said, I texted the fellas in our group chat and I said, yo, I think we need to talk about this. So that's what we're talking about today. So I want to just pose this question to y'all before we go to break, and then we'll dive deeper into it when we come off a break. Have you or someone you know been impacted by domestic violence in a same-sex relationship? Alex?
Yes.
Justin?
Same sex? No.
Okay.
Same sex,
Ryan?
yeah. Yes, I have.
Okay.
Noticed, yeah.
And for me, yes as well. So what we're gonna do, y'all, we're gonna take a real quick break so we can pay these bills, and we will be back after this. What's good, everybody? I know that you're enjoying the show, but right now, what we need you to do is leave us a rating and review. When you leave us a rating, and I'm gonna do that one more time. What's good, everybody? I know that you're enjoying the episode right now, but what we need you to do right now is leave us a rating and review. When you leave us a rating and review, that helps pushes us out into the algorithm, and really, it just lets us know what you think about this show, all right? So right now, you're listening, you're watching, pull your phone out. It takes 2 seconds. Give us a rating and a review. Let us know how we're doing, all right? Now back to the Black Gay Agenda. Welcome back. So make sure y'all do that. All right. Anywho, we're gonna get right into this thing. Alex, you got some like statistics and numbers that you want to share with the audience, correct?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research because I had heard some things before, just kind of like in hearsay about, same-sex relationships being the most violent. And I wanted to kind of do some research and see if I could find some specific numbers. And I did find some things, but I stumbled across a national coalition against domestic violence. And what I found was for gay men, that would be 26%, and then 37.3% of bisexual men have experienced SA, physical violence, and stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. In a study of male same-sex relationships, only 26% of men call the police for assistance after experiencing near lethal violence, right? And then for LGBTQ Black African American victims are more likely to experience physical, intimate partner violence compared to those who not identify as Black and African American. And then there was one other stat that I was like, LGBTQ victims on public assistance are more likely to experience intimate partner violence compared to those who are not on public assistance.
That makes perfectly good sense.
That really do.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. And it just goes to show, like, there's so much going on, and we have to, like, get off this whole, we're men thing and understand what domestic violence is. Like, sometimes we minimize what it is, right? And we have to think hard about if a situation was domestic or not. But if there's a moment where you are in a confrontation where you fear that it could get physical or it is getting physical, that's abuse. If it's verbal, that's abuse.
That's
It's
abuse.
abuse. Yeah, it's abuse.
I got some questions that we're gonna dive into, but before I do that, you said something there that really stuck out to me, right? Hold on. All right, so yeah, you said something there that kind of stuck out to me, and something that I've noticed that we do, and not we. When we say we mean the collective we for those listeners. But one thing that happens within the community sometimes is we minimize domestic violence. We sensationalize domestic violence, and disgustingly, I don't know if that's a word, but it is today, we sexualize domestic violence. Now, what do I mean? We see a lot of these popular gay couples online, right? Whether they're OnlyFans creators, whether usually OnlyFans creators, whether they're just like, Twitter gay famous, TikTok gay famous, Instagram gay famous, whatever it is, right? And they have these very intense relationships. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna name drop Kai Levine and that young boy that he dates, right? People like Arquez and his boyfriend, right? Um, and like they'll be on Beagle, Graylin Purnell with every single young person that he ends up getting with, right? And they end up fighting online, posting their fights online. And then I see things from us, members of the community, just because they're quote unquote conventionally attractive, just because they have big dicks, just because they have fat asses, we look over it, right? Because they're conventionally attractive, they have all these things going for them. And I'll see stuff in the comments like, oh, he could rough me up like that. I can see stuff where there was a video and it's turned into a meme and a GIF, and it's not funny, but it's Kai Levine smacks his boyfriend in the face, and that's become a meme now, right? There's all these other instances that we see this stuff happening, and then people in the comments are saying things like, "Oh, I know the makeup sex was great," and then those same people, I saw those same people. Who's echoing? Okay. And then those same people, I saw them same people on Twitter and Instagram and under gay magazines posts and under the neighborhood talk posts, like, oh my God, we have to stop domestic violence. Oh my God, this is so sad, when they read the story about Carlos Collins. But we've normalized this stuff. We've normalized it and we've made it okay. So the first question that I want to ask you all is, I'm going to go off script a little bit, but why do you think we as a community and as a whole in a society, why are we so numb to same-sex domestic violence?
That's actually a really great question, because I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about violence in general. And I feel like I always go back to a historical standpoint, because that's just the way that I am. I feel like throughout history, violence amongst Black people was normal. Whether it was lynching, whether it was, buck breaking, and different forms of violence like that. And then on top of that, throughout history, we're seeing slaves, we're seeing all these people from movies, we're seeing people from books and articles, violence being displayed. So over time, people they take these images that are being displayed of Black violence, and now through propaganda, it's being desensitized. So with that desensitization, us as Black people in our communities, we already going through pain and going through trauma. It just adds on to people not wanting to change the narrative. So oftentimes, like, I feel like violence, specifically domestic violence, has been an ongoing issue because no one wants to hold themselves accountable and want to do the work to change. And then even from the statistic that Alex listed earlier, how domestic violence amongst LGBTQ plus couples who are living in public assistance because of lack of resources, because of lack of education. So that even makes it much more difficult for them to change. So yeah, I feel like those things contribute to the desensitization of violence, specifically on gay people?
I think too. I'm sorry, Ryan. I was just gonna say. I think too. That false sense of what makes us masculine. That need to be tough, that need to be hard, that need to assert your authority, toughness. I'm gonna show you, who I am or what it is, over one another in our community as a whole in general. And then, that same thing, because we are, Black men. So, in our community, that's kind of like something I can't say I can pinpoint where it came from, but it's definitely something that's there, like the sense of needing to assert your aggression and masculinity to show that you are, the big bad. You know what I mean?
You know where it comes from, though. We've talked about it on this podcast for a year now, almost a year now. Heteronormativity, toxic masculinity, even the whole tops are supposed to be hard and bottoms are supposed to be soft, like feminine versus masculine. That's where it comes from.
And that's where I was going to, come in about us like being men, okay? Because we are men, Black gay men, we're tougher. We're supposed to. How are two men beating on each other, or how is one person, another man, letting somebody else beat on him, and then the narratives of like, oh, because you are a top, you are masculine, and the bottom is supposed to be feminine. Like it's it's just.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I agree with that. I do feel like the physical power dynamics often affect our relationships, because someone who appears as more bigger and buffer and someone who have less of those qualities come across as soft, so they feel like they can inflict this power onto them. And then let's not even include like even with the person who's making more money. So if they're making more money, or they have these things, they're being the head of household, they kind of create this power, and that power comes to abuse, mental abuse, and it just manifests. So it's literally different processes that contribute to that, to the whole violence in the first place.
Not to mention the older one, right? Because a lot of times that happens as well. Like Marcus was definitely, he was 30, he's 33. And Carlos was 25. So we see a lot of times, and then some of the names that I mentioned earlier, your gray lanes. I don't care. I'm saying names. Your grayless, right?
Disgusting.
Disgusting. And he's what, 40 something? 40? Yeah. He's 40? And Kyle Levine is close to 40, if not 40.
Basically.
And then they date these kids who straight out the house a lot of times.
Still figuring themselves out.
Still figuring life out, still figuring themselves out. So then there's that power dynamic. And then at the same time, you got to remember, I mean, it was only a couple of years ago for you, Justin, but you got to remember, like when you was 20, 21, you wanted to be outside. You wanted to be hot in the pants. You didn't want to be, married. You feel me? And like these older dudes, a lot of times they want to settle down, because I'm 44 years old. I'm trying to settle down, and they're trying to settle down with this child because that's what they are. They're children. Also, just because you had more responsibility growing up doesn't mean that you're mature, right? Because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I can date older because I'm mature." No. You just had to take care of your siblings because your parents weren't shit. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're mature, because you still got a lot of life to live. And there's certain things that you're only going to go through experience and age, right? Anywho, rewind. What I see a lot of times is these older guys, they'll prey on these young boys, and then comes that physicality, because it's like, and we'll get into this, but it's like they want to be controlling, and where were you? Why didn't you pick up? You were outside. Who told you can go out? Why? And like it's a lot of this, and it's sad to see, because it's all fun and games when y'all are making fun of them on Twitter and y'all are talking about makeup sex, but then it gets serious when people get their lives taken away, right? That's when it gets serious. It gets serious when you read stories about a boyfriend shoots his boyfriend and his boyfriend now is paralyzed from the waist down. It gets serious when there was a story here in Chicago not too long ago where a man went missing and his ex-boyfriend had buried him in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just if y'all could see, that's a real story. Justin murdered him and buried him in the backyard, and they found him like 2 years later or something. Not 2 years, a couple of weeks later, right?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know people that knew him actually.
Wow.
I know him. Yeah.
So I asked a question earlier. I asked you all if you knew anybody or if you had been somebody affected by domestic violence. Does anybody want to speak on that? If you're not ready, you don't have to.
So what I will say is about minimizing and understanding what domestic violence is. A lot of times when you hear domestic violence, you immediately think, oh no, ain't nobody beat my ass. You know what I'm saying? But it don't have to be that, right? It ain't always that. It ain't always they beating your ass. It's they could be intimidating you, or they could be threatening you with with violence, or they could be threatening you with the withdrawal of resources, right? They could be threatening you with control, like being able to control you with the different things that they may have over you. Even people that are like, you're not a fighter, right? You may be a person that's not confrontational, or that's not quick to fight, or want to be into altercations, and that other person may be quick, and that may intimidate you, and they use that because they know you, right? This is somebody you're in a relationship with, they know you, right? And so they'll use that, and that is something that's used again to intimidate you and make you fearful of boundaries and setting boundaries. And then what often happens is, well, let me not say what often happens, what can happen, I'll say it that way, because words mean things, right? What can happen is, once that person decides to lay down a boundary, now we're in a stalemate, and now there's a conflict. And so now the person's tired, and now we got a situation where they're ready to fight back because they are tired of the treatment. You know what I mean? And so now there's more altercation. Now it's more heated because now the feelings are different. So there's so much, like so many layers to it. And I think more people would probably identify with it if we really dug into what it is.
What it looks like. That's real, what it looks like. Even things like you're in an argument, right? Because a lot of y'all have been in these situations. You just might not know, or you might not recognize it, right? So you're in an argument, So like you're in an argument with your significant other, with your partner, right? And you try to leave the room, and they stand in front, they shut the door, and they stand in front of the door and are holding the door. And you're like, move. And they're like, no, you're going to talk to me. And they're like, get out my way. And they're like, no, you're going to talk to me. That's a form of domestic violence because they're intimidating you. So you won't leave the room. It's things like that. When they throw something, like I've seen people throw something at their partner. Not in a playful way, like for real, like serious, like those type of things it's not that it's not cool.
Yeah, taking keys, like stopping somebody from leaving a place is illegal.
Yeah, that's a form of, it's not kidnapping, but yeah, it is a form of kidnapping, right?
Yeah, it actually is.
Kind of what it is. Their will. They want to leave. You're not letting them leave. That ain't funny. That's not funny.
My take on it is how like we think of like TV shows, right? One comes to mind, and if you guys are familiar, the LA Complex, a Canadian show that was on the CW, and the main character, Caldrick King, and he was a rapper, a closeted rapper in a relationship, DL relationship with a upcoming producer on the show. And what really was a trigger, it was a very good show. My reasoning for liking the show is because it brought those, conversations that are like, again, going back to the, oh, you're a man in a relationship with another man, y'all like how's domestic violence a thing? And what I appreciated about the show was that it brought it to prime time, that this does happen, between same-sex relationships and black men, gay black men. But the negative about it is how, like, when I would watch it or see comments and how people talk about it on social media, they find that stuff, like you were saying, like blocking the door. Some people sexualize that. They sexualize that, like, oh, he's just being a man. He's just being my man, or he's just protective, or I like that. I like when he gets a little aggressive like that. That's not aggressive.
Yeah.
He crazy. Yeah, like he crazy over me. Like, that's not
my man
healthy.
Don't play about that. My man don't play about me.
That's that.
Yeah. Seems like he don't play. Seems like when people say that, it seems like he don't play with anything.
Yeah. What does Alex always say? You need therapy.
Yeah. No, that's real. And so, I see that people say, I want my man to be obsessive on me. I want this, that. Like, you want it until you have it. And then you don't want it.
So I wanted to pull up the definition, and I found a good definition so that it covers a lot. So I want,
because words matter.
Yes.
And I want people, and I really want people to hear this, because most of the time these things escalate. And one day you can find yourself in a situation where it's something light and you ignore it, and years later it's deeper than you ever expected that you would be in, right? So domestic abuse, also called domestic violence or intimate partner violence, can be as a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. Abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economic, psychological actions or threat actions that influence another person. This includes any behaviors that frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, blame, injure, or wound someone. Domestic abuse can happen to anyone of any age, race, orientation, religion, or gender. It can occur within a range of relationships, and it affects people of all socioeconomic backgrounds and education levels.
Yeah,
I'm very glad that you hit that, because that's actually goes into the next question, right? That I want us to really take a little bit of time and sit there, because I don't think people. One more time, tell them, don't read the whole definition, but tell them like what it is, like what covers it. When you were talking about like that can be like physical, sexual. Can you go back to that part specifically?
It can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threats of actions that influence another person.
So when y'all get on the internet, all right, and now I'm going to give you this question, but when y'all get on the internet and you're like, oh, my partner, and then it was just crazy to me, because then a week later y'all back together. It's not healthy. Therapy. But you're like, oh, my partner has HIV and this, that, and the other. He's like, that's abuse. That's abuse, y'all, because that's something that he shared with you, and now he shared with you, and now that you've shared with others. I've seen people expose their partners like, oh, that's why you were molested as a child. That's why your parents don't even fuck with you no more. Like all of these things that taps into that emotional thing. And then when I see them back together, hugged up, kissed up, I'm like, why are they still together? Like what's happening? So I want to know to y'all, what does it look like to y'all when you see some signs of like domestic abuse? Like, what would you see possibly in your friends, or even if it's somebody that you're talking to and like, you're like, whoa. What are like those red flags to you?
To me, I would say the red flags are like early on, like when you like you didn't tell me you can go out. Like if you know, like I remember there was a guy briefly that I was like getting to know. It wasn't even we didn't even confirm that, what we if we were going to be consistently dating. And I went out and I remember like texting, hey, went out with some friends, da 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 da. And he was like, I didn't say you can go out. Oh. And I said, LOL, I was like, you're crazy. Like
made it a joke.
Yeah, I was like, that's why he was like, I'm dead ass serious. Like, you didn't even hit me up and say, hey, I was like, first of all, you can lose my number. Like, it was just an instant red flag because first of all, we just met. 2, you are not my man. 3, who are you talking to? Like it was just those things of going through my head. Like that was the one and only time that I was just like, I don't like where that's going, and I'm not going to involve myself in that.
But even if he was your man, he still doesn't have autonomy. Yeah, he still doesn't have autonomy over you. Because now I'll respect you, and there could be I think we've talked about this before.
We have.
Yeah. Okay. And there could be a conversation, right?
Literally.
Yeah. But at the end of the conversation, if I still want to go out with my friends, I'm going to still go out with my friends. Because I'm your partner, not your property.
And if I fear that there will be retaliation because of your behavior, that is abuse.
Yeah.
Because I shouldn't be outside like, oh, I gotta hurry up and text him back. I don't want him to be mad. That means I'm fearful. Somewhere along the lines in this relationship, he's intimidated me.
And I want to say this too, real quick. When we say seek therapy, we're talking about the victim and the abuser.
Yes.
Both people need help.
Do you think abusers can be redeemed?
I think so. I think so. That's what I think as a society, we forget that the reason people are abusers is because there was something that either occurred or is occurring or is wrong or is I'm trying to say it. I almost said something that is incorrect in their thinking, right? That causes them to behave that way. So they also need to seek help so that they are abusing others, right?
Okay.
Because that's a detriment to their life, right? If I'm abusing people, what plethora of things can happen to me as an abuser if I'm abusing people? People can retaliate, family members, I could be in jail, I could lose my job. I mean, the person that I'm abusing could, burn and bed me, you know what I'm saying? And then boom, there we have it, right? So like both people need help. And when we say go to therapy, seek therapy, it's not signifying, right? That's the old word. Who said that? Not me. But we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. We're saying it is needed, right? Because we all is about to be in therapy ourselves. So we're saying seek help because it's real and it's a problem for both people. Why are you allowing someone? Why are you doing this to someone?
Do you think it traces back to? I think you know what? You're right, and I think a lot of it does trace back to those childhood traumas, right? Yes. And especially that's why I think the rates are so high within the community because we have the childhood trauma, we have the family trauma. We have the not feeling wanted, not feeling accepted, having to hide ourselves from our true selves and our authentic selves. So then when you're suppressing a part of you, the ugly parts of you kind of like take root and they take over, right? Because you're suppressing a part of you and then you're dealing with depression. You're dealing with, I fucking hate myself because they told me while I was growing up that I was going to hell for being gay. So now it's like you hate yourself, self-hatred, and like, then the lack of, like we talked about earlier, lack of resources, lack of being able to go to therapy. And not only the lack of resources, sometimes we have the resources, but the way we were raised, a lot of times you pray about it and you keep it pushing. Or therapies for white folk, right? Like these are things that happen within the Black community. And now you have, and that's why the way I see a lot of people, like people be thinking I be joking when I say it, when I quote tweet somebody on Twitter and I'll be like therapy. Right. But I really feel that because the the takes that people have, the thought processes that people have, like something's not all right. This girl I work with, I love her, Davi. She always says this at work. She says, "Is everything okay?" And I really think about that. I really think about that when I be seeing people crashing out. Like, is everything okay? And it's not. So now you have a broken person one dating broken person two, and they've never learned how to really process their emotions and their feelings. Why? Another reason why boys don't cry, right? Boys don't cry. So we grow up, and the only emotion that we have that we're allowed to embrace, and that's embraced, is anger.
And that's our protection.
Yeah.
That's the shield.
It's a shield, yeah.
That's it.
What do you think some red flags are, Justin?
I was about to add to that. Because I don't have many I haven't been in a relationship in a long time. However, I did date, a few guys here and there. And one of the guys who I've dated recently, he presented himself as someone that I'm like, ooh, like I could possibly, see something with, right? And then, but for me though, I'm undergoing a lot of healing, but also I've done therapy many of times, so I can recognize things that don't align with my spirit, because A, I've experienced real love in my platonic relationships, and B, I was able to realize what makes me uncomfortable and what makes my spirit feel uneasy when I experience certain things. So a few signs for me, I noticed that that could lead to domestic violence is when I express my opinion on something, or express my side of the story. When I was talking to this partner, he will invalidate the way I feel, and then maximize off of his perspective, and he will literally sway me to literally think another way and change my perspective. And I noticed that he did it once, and I was like, maybe it's from a positive perspective, but then I saw a pattern. He would do it multiple times, and also he was older, so he'll try to tell me what to say because he felt like he was my dad. And I told him, baby, my dad passed away in 2018. You know what I mean? I'm a grown ass man. So at the same time, you have to respect me in order to get respect. And oftentimes, I feel like individuals who are more feminine communicators, because in communications, there are dominant communicators who are more solution oriented and want to get to the problem. And there are people who are feminine communicators where they like to, process and work through the emotions. And that's who I am. So oftentimes, when we would have conversations, I would find myself hey, I feel this way because X, Y, and Z. Here's the fact behind it, and here's my logic, and here's my emotional part from it. And the other party would minimize how I feel, and he'll get upset. He will raise his voice at me. And that's another thing. I don't tolerate being yelled at. So it's three deal breakers. I don't tolerate being yelled at. I don't tolerate being cursed at, or I don't tolerate physical abuse in any way, shape, or form. So as soon as I see that it was like a process, he will manipulate me and make me feel like my opinion was less than, and then he will get upset and raise his voice at me. So once I saw those things, it just turns me off, period, with anyone. I don't condone that fighting shit. I'm not a violent girl at all. So yeah, those are some things that I recognize, signs as domestic abuse for sure.
Those are good. Those are really good. Do you have anything to add, Alex, or should I move on?
I think I said enough. Okay.
All right. So, why do you think some within the community, because something that you had mentioned about, I think you said 26%, was that the number that don't say anything, that don't report it? Why do you think that is? Why do you think members of the LGBTQ community sometimes, specifically Black gay men, but this happens with women too? I remember when we were all going up to bring Brittany Griner back home, but I actually remember when Brittany Griner was involved with a domestic violence with her ex-partner. And I remember seeing things where people were like, oh, it doesn't count. They're both women. So me personally, before I ask y'all's opinions, I feel like so many people don't say anything because they feel like it's going to be dismissed, right? Because they're going to say, you're both men fighting back, right? Defend yourself. Yeah, beat his ass. Defend
beat
yourself.
His ass.
Nobody's gonna do that to me. Yeah, we can all say that, but then when it happens, you don't know what you're going to do. Right?
Exactly.
You don't know what it is gonna do, what you're gonna do. You don't know what you're gonna do when y'all are both on the leash together and you have nowhere to go. See, everybody can say, I forget who it was, but somebody said everybody can say what they're gonna do in a fight until they get punched in the mouth. And then it all goes out the window. And that's real.
You love somebody.
And that was I think it was Mike Tyson actually. And that right there was in the confines of talking about boxing. They don't love the dude that they across the ring from, right? But now we're talking about somebody who you love, somebody who you built a life with, somebody who you've shared experiences with, regardless of how long you've been. So everybody knows what they're going to do. So me personally, I think to me, the biggest reason is they're fearful of what people will say and be like, oh, you a bitch. You supposed to be a man. What type of man are you to let another man beat on you?
Yeah. That's definitely what I was first thing I was gonna say. Getting dismissed because like, oh, why are you letting him beat on you? A man too. Like, fight him back. Like you said, fight him back. It makes me just, think of the comments that I was seeing when, after the news was released about the young man, Carlos, that lost his life. That his life was taken, from him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the comments that were people that couldn't be me, or why didn't he defend himself, or why, those comments, and it's so, first of all, it's disrespectful to anybody that knew him, his family, his friends, colleagues that knew him, loved him. That's so disrespectful to say that. And then the two, it's like, you don't know. You don't know anything. Like, anything is possible, unfortunately. And that, like, you think of it like possibly impossible. Anything is possible. You don't know which, your next relationship that could unfortunately be a domestic. You just don't know until you are in their shoes. So don't be so quick. People shouldn't be so quick to judge.
Yeah, and it was interesting because like we mentioned some points earlier, right? Like I feel like as because we're Black men, we're from childhood, we're taught to fight, or you don't run away, you don't tell, you fight. And on top of that too, being Black gay men, we couldn't tell anybody about our identity or how we were individualized alone. So it's like it's a double whammy. We can't tell about our identity, but also we have to fight because we're men. And on top of that too, most Black in most Black communities, we're raised around violence, or whether if it's through music, whether if it's through movies, whether if it's through actual family dynamics, people are seeing these things. And on top of that, like some of the statistics, like I go back earlier, people who come from these lower income environments, who lack of resources, all they know is fight. So it's just like, it's like two people who are literally two broken people, basically two different puzzle pieces trying to solve each other puzzles who haven't figured out their own puzzle yet. So it's like it's a cycle that's happening. But yeah, so ultimately, like when I think about that, that's how I feel, and it sucks that Black gay men, we constantly get told to fight instead of sitting with the things that we're going through, instead of working through the emotions that are going through our head before we make any irrational decision, because we already know emotions are temporary. So for us to react and just jump, it saddens me. Truly, it saddens me.
I think we got to add, we're in a society where we're like, we want to accept everything and normalize everything. And that's, in some instances, that's okay. But in other instances, I feel like we should bring back shame. Okay? I really do. When I see these, like, why y'all niggas fighting outside the club, and this is even just domestic shit, but like it's still the same concept of celebrating the foolishness, and like this stuff goes viral, and every weekend y'all gotta fight every weekend. No lie, when I went out to this event, and it was a safe space, and we're gonna get into safe spaces a little bit later, but I went to this event a couple of weeks ago. The vibes was so beautiful, just beautiful Black LGBTQ people in the building. And then later on throughout the night, and it wasn't giving that. The music wasn't giving that. The vibes wasn't giving that. These boys was in here.
I already know what you're about to say. I already knew what you wanted to say.
They're in here fighting down while Beyonce is playing. My House is playing. I'm looking at them. I'm like, oh my God, this is so ghetto. Like, it was just so ghetto. And I was so like, and I when I was on the way home, I was like, it didn't call for that. And then it's like, how did we get here? Whatever. And it's like I can't go on Twitter on a Monday without seeing a fight from a weekend, whether it's Chicago, Philly, DC, Atlanta, New York, it doesn't matter. Like, niggas, stop fighting. Why can't we talk? Why can't we disagree and have a conversation? Why do we gotta fight?
Don't let it be a holiday weekend.
Yeah, don't let it be a holiday weekend. And I feel like the same way they act, and it will be the littlest thing. Somebody bump you and now bitch, beat, and then like they go chase the person down halfway across the like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, safe spaces, y'all. I would say that this right here, the Black Gay Agenda, is a safe space. What we're doing now is we're creating a safe space, and this is something that even in the future, when we do like some live events, I want to have a panel about this exact topic right now. Y'all, if y'all are watching, Justice like putting this heart up. But what is the importance of creating safe spaces for open communication when it deals with, you know, domestic violence amongst, you know, Black gay men? Why is it important to create these spaces?
That's such a great question.
It is a great question.
I think some of it is what we were talking about last episode. We were just talking about being able to be fully you, right? So whatever that intersectionality is, right? Black, gay, masculine, feminine presenting, whatever it may be, all of the things you are welcomed and represented and affirmed. So like not just tolerated, right? All of you are being affirmed. I think that is hugely important because that allows the space to feel safe, right? Because we got to know what is going to make people feel safe. You can't create a space and call it safe if we don't even know what's going to make those people feel safe in that space, right? So I think cultivating with knowledge, of what's going to make it be safe is huge. And it's very important because that's where people are able to let guards down and have conversations, right? If I'm safe, then I don't have my shield up, right? My shield is down because I can talk and I can express and I can be because I feel safe. So I think that's why having a space like that is super important.
I feel that.
I agree with that. 3 values of mine, and it's gonna segue right into the question. 3 values of mine that I learned even as a Black gay man that I follow are community, connectedness, and psychological safetyness. Overall, a lot of times queer people, we're used to feeling alone. And when you're alone, you know, a lot of emotions arrive, like anxiety, doubt, you know, depression. You start second guessing yourself, and it kind of like makes you feel like you can't do it, right? And spaces like this, like the Black Gay Agenda, or like the Black Gay Agenda, it's a lot of connectedness here. You know, I feel like a lot of times people, they feel so, because they felt so different all their life, that they get around people and they feel like they gotta exude that negativity onto them, or exude those experiences onto other people, where actuality, some people who y'all come across, y'all, really want to be in your life and really want to support you and love you, and you just got to let them. That right there will help you grow. And trying to live a life of being self-made and trying to do things alone is only going to get you so far. And versus actually immersing yourself into spaces where they are safe, you'll grow so much. So yeah, that's the importance. That's why it's important for individuals to have these safe spaces for sure.
I'll say, creating safe spaces, especially with, I'll say from my perspective of like friendships with other Black gay men, they always feel like, and even I'm saying me as well, like it took me a while to trust, because I felt like, I'm in this on my own, or, this nobody would understand because they didn't identify as gay, or, or as like I did. And then finding your community, finding your safe spaces. You might have more than one for different various reasons, but it is about just, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my words, but it's like, it's creating a safe space is important for us as Black gay men, so that we can just relate and be safe with each other. I'm rambling. I'm fighting with words today. Excuse me, but for me, like Ryan Out Loud is a safe space for Black queer creatives because of the lack of visibility for Black queer artists to be on a mainstream. I wanted to create a safe space, a community for them as well, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
I'm so
everybody
glad.
does. I'm sorry.
No, go.
Everyone deserves to be seen and heard, regardless. So I understood exactly where he was going from.
Fighting with my words today. Excuse me.
No, you're good. You're good. This is a happy topic. So I'm glad that you talked about those friendships, because actually next week we're going to be attacking the Black gay friendship agenda. And are y'all ready? I'm gonna y'all get an exclusive right now, listeners. Y'all get an exclusive. My brother, and like one of my best friends is going to join us next week. Blake Martin. Y'all hear me talk about Blake all the time. He's gonna join us, and we're gonna be talking about Black gay friends, because a lot of times there's this thing within the community, and we see a lot of people say things like, "Oh, I don't have any Black gay friends," and and I think that's an important conversation to have. But yeah, those safe spaces are important. All right, those safe spaces are super important. Speaking of safe spaces, we got to take this commercial. So go to a safe space, go grab something to drink, so go grab something to eat, and we will be back after this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Black Gay Agenda, episode 3. The domestic violence agenda. This segment right here is pretty important because it's all about taking action, right? And here's how you all can make a difference to all our listeners out here. We have a special list for y'all. So we're all located in different states, obviously. DC over here, Chicago, and Philadelphia. And here are some hotlines. So anyone who's listening, Pittsburgh. It was a P one. So. Pittsburgh.
Pushing P.
Right. But I wanted to give you guys a list of hotlines and safe spaces that you all can go to if you know anyone or you yourself may be experiencing domestic violence in any variation of that. So for DC, I came across the Housing Initiative Program, HIPS. So they provide safe housing and support services for survivors of domestic violence. And they have a 24/7 hotline, and that's 202-628-1166. And then, of course, for Chicago, came across a place called the Ruth Ellis Center, and they provide a safe haven, crisis intervention, and support services for LGBTQ plus survivors of domestic violence. And their number is 1-877-378-8477. And then, of course, because for Pittsburgh, I found a national domestic violence hotline. And this is for anyone in Pittsburgh and outside of Pittsburgh. They provide confidential support from trained advocates who understand the unique challenges faced by LGBTQ plus survivors of domestic violence. And their number is 1-888-843-4542. So if you're out there, you're listening, and you're seeking support, we got you. And please contact those amazing services that are here to help and make your life better.
I love that. This has been a very fruitful conversation, I believe. I think it's been a very fruitful conversation. I just want anybody listening to this I want to talk to two people real quick, right? First, I want to talk to the victims, right? Don't blame yourself. A lot of times abusers will try to blame you and make it about you, and oh, you just make me so mad, and oh, you do this, and oh, you do that. I don't care what you did. You having hands put on you is not the answer. You don't deserve that, right? So I feel like a lot of y'all, a lot of victims, a lot of times they blame themselves, which puts them deeper into like depression and deeper into just like feeling like they're worthless. And then they go back to those situations because they feel like it's all they can get. No, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing for you to be ashamed of. So take that shame off of you. For those of you who are abusers or have been abusers in the past, like Alex said earlier, I implore you to seek help, seek therapy. I implore you to take the time. I want everybody. That's why I am a firm believer in therapy. And I feel like we all need therapy. Everybody needs therapy. But if you're Black, you definitely need therapy, right? Black in America, you definitely need therapy. If you're Black and in part of any marginalized community, on top of being Black, whether it's you're poor, right? Whether it's you're a Black woman, whether you're a gay Black man, whether you're Black and trans, right? Whether you're am I using the correct word? Black and fat? Is that the right word? Fat?
You can say fat because it's used as fat phobia, but it's just
right.
Yeah.
Whether you're Black and disabled, right? All of these little microcosms or whatnot, like all of these things, like you need therapy because there's a lot to unpack. So for those of y'all who are out there and y'all have abused people or you're currently doing that, it's like go get the help you need because you probably have a lot of anger, a lot of feeling rejected by family and friends, loved ones, the church, a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff is internal, and you haven't figured out a way yet to deal with your emotions. So you deal with your emotions in the only way that you know how to, and that's violence. And that's what we gotta get away from. And then the third people group that I want to talk to, I just want to talk to all my Black LGBT, all of the girls, right? And I'm not even talking about trans or like the lesbians because, we kind of focus on us, Black gay men, right? Mm-hmm. We have to stop feeding into the bull jive, right? Stop sharing the fight videos. Stop sexualizing domestic violence. There's nothing cute about makeup sex. Maybe makeup sex is cool when y'all like just arguing through text or whatever, and you being a little snippy, he being a little snippy, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's cute. But when it's violent, there's nothing cute about that. So stop like sexualizing, stop. And then sometimes, and this is the big one. If you're still subscribed to these people's OnlyFans, if you still like their Instagram posts of their fashion looks, if you still following them on TikTok and sharing their videos, you're a part of the problem. Mm-hmm. You're a part of the problem because listen, y'all cancel everybody else who's famous, right? But the people that you actually know, you won't withdraw your support. Listen, and I'm going to come closer, right? And for those of you who are watching, you'll see this. I'm going to come closer. Hey, babes, he's not going to fuck you, okay?
Call him in.
He's not. Mm-hmm. He's not going to fuck you. And for a lot of y'all support trash-ass human beings because you think you're going to get some dick. You think you're going to get some ass.
Yep.
It's never going to be you. And if it is you, if they beat the person who they supposedly love, what do you think they're going to do to some random?
Okay.
All right, and that's my closing thoughts. Everyone else, let's hear your closing thoughts for today's episode.
Can I'm sorry. I just want to say that we gotta we gotta do better.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta do better. And when it comes to domestic violence, those who are going through this, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And I know that's so like border, basic to say, but I always try to create, like I said, going back to the safe space, like talk to your friends. Talk to your friends. Confide in them. How can they help? But then there's the question I always like to ask, and I was going to ask you guys earlier, like, how can we, as friends that know somebody that is going through, a domestic violence, how can we help them? How can we be better support? Yes, there are hotlines. There are, resources, but how can we as humans, support our friends that are going through this unfortunate, situation?
I think what you just said also goes back to something that Alex. I love how as we've been going through this, I've been thinking about old episodes. So that question, how do we help our friends? We have to show that we're somebody who we have to show our friends that we are a safe space. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
If you never respond back to your friends' text messages or their phone calls and you're never available to them, they may or may not feel safe coming to you because he's not going to answer anyway. He's not going to text me back anyway. So that's one. Another one is we can see you on social media, right? And I say that because so when you're in the comments keying about, I know that makeup sex, that makeup dick down is gonna be so good. Like your friend who's getting busted in his head every single night by his partner, they see that. And they see that you're not a safe space. Right? All this stuff it matters. it matters. And I feel like I think sometimes we're not responsible with how we even use these social media platforms. There's been times where I've wanted to share a meme or a GIF, but then I was like, no, I'm not going to share this because this is inappropriate. And somebody who might see it, who respects me, they may be like, oh, damn, I didn't expect that from you. So, like, I don't do those things anymore. So I think I think you have to prove yourself to be a safe space. Just because you're somebody's friend doesn't mean that you're a safe space or that they can come to you for everything.
Right.
I had a situation with a younger person, and I said something on Facebook, and they got on a post that I was real being tough about it too. Like, well, it's my page. I said what I said, and they responded with, I really looked up to and respected you, and I can't believe that you would say something like that. That was a dagger, and rightfully so. It made me think like, wow, I did not mean for that to happen. In a moment, I was still like, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I literally went to that person recently and apologized. Like, hey, I apologize for that. Wow. You know what I mean? For changing your view of me. You know what I mean? It was real. So what you just said, that hit home for real.
And that's maturity and emotional intelligence, though.
Mm-hmm.
That you were able to do that. Because some people would be like, "Oh, it's what it is. We're not connected no more. Yeah, we're not. It's whatever. A loss. We're like, you get what I'm saying? Like we throw away shit very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect you for that.
Yeah, I guess I just had some encouraging words for the individuals who are going through it, because personally, like, I want to speak to the victims of it. That like you're not alone, but also two, it's okay to lean on those that are around you for help, because a lot of times when people are in domestic violence situations, that keep it internal with the abuser, and then once it gets bad, where lethal, that's when they get other people involved. So like I say, like, you're not alone, but also don't wait till it's late. Like don't let it get too late before you speak up with these things, because a lot of times, like, people out, you don't know what your friends may be capable of, or the resources that they can provide for you, or the love that they have for you, or even if you just want a listening ear, but yeah, because I haven't experienced domestic violence, it does make me feel some type of way that people are getting physically harmed and killed from their loved ones, and it kind of like taint my perspective on love a little bit. But ultimately,
well, that's not love, Justin. So don't let it taint you, because love will never make you feel less than.
It's incorrect love.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that. Or it takes my on intimate relationships. It takes my perspective on intimate relationships. So and also too, even after you get out of a domestic violence situation, remember that you're still capable of being loved, and you're still capable of giving love. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got one more thing, because you talked about that. Also, I need y'all to love yourselves. Because when you really true, and then that goes back to therapy, right? Everything we ever talk about is always going to go back to therapy. I didn't really truly love myself until I started going to therapy and unpacking the shit that I needed to unpack, right? And then I started seeing myself differently. And when you start seeing yourself differently, you won't allow certain things to happen to you, right? Because you'll be like, oh, hell no. And I don't know. I don't care what I have to do. I just know that I have to get out of this situation, right? I got to get out of this predicament, because you deserve to be loved correctly. You deserve to be loved correctly, not be abused, not be manipulated, not be intimidated. Like all of these things, that's not real love. And sometimes we got to look within and say, do I even love myself? Do I even love myself? So like, I want y'all to like really, before you fall in love with a nigga, you need to fall in love with the nigga that you look in the mirror at every single day. That's who you have to love first. And go down to like, when I started this journey these past like 2 years, that this like for me, I had to write down like, what do I like? What are my actual likes? What do I like doing? What makes me happy? Like actual happy. That's not connected to a nigga, right? That's not connected to somebody else. What makes Micah to his core? What makes him happy? What brings me joy? Those are the things that you have to start doing. Take time to journal. What makes you happy? What makes you tick? What is it that you want in your life? Because you talk a lot. Oh, I want a husband and the kids and the house, and like that's all cool. That's all cool. But what do you want for you yourself? And that's all about that self-love journey that I want everybody to take. And self-love, it's a journey. It's not a destination. So every day you wake up, you got to figure out, how can I love myself a little bit more? At the top, I talked about how I'll go out and like some days I'll just because I'll just go and grab a drink and the other day I went and grabbed an appetizer, grabbed some drinks and just chilled out, edited last week's podcast episode and just enjoyed myself. And that's what I need y'all to do. Love yourself. Sorry about that.
I actually thought of something too. I want to talk to my the strong friend, like strong. The ones that think they can handle it, the ones that will say, "It wasn't that bad. I wasn't. It wasn't nothing. He ain't gonna do nothing for me. I'm not scared of him. I'm not worried about it." Be worried about it. Be concerned. Protect yourself. Just because you're strong don't mean that you deserve to be dented. Right?
Wow.
Does not mean that you deserve to be. So
that was beautiful.
Y'all know, and I always do this, and Micah be so mad at me. I always laugh at the wrong time, and I laugh at things that I probably shouldn't. But I was gonna say, what did I say before? Get rid of them. Just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Get rid of all of them.
Yeah.
Off with his head. Sorry,
off what he said. And
Literally.
That's gonna be on YouTube. Maybe I shouldn't do that gesture.
And build and be intentional with. And this is the last thing. I'm sorry. This topic has me stirred. Be intentional with building community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have the right community, you have a safe haven, right? Because I know there's people, I might not have a lot of room, but there's people who they call me today and it's like, yo, I need a place to crash because my dude is not good right now. I'd be like, all right, bring your ass on over here, right? And when I say build community, I don't mean build a community with niggas who want to fuck on you and take advantage of you as well. I mean real, and we'll get into that next, and we'll get into that next week for sure. But yeah, genuine community, people who love you and they care for you and they care for you and everything, dealing with you. That's important. And sometimes that community, the work is not building that community. It's not all about brunch. It's not all about trips. It's not all about, let's go to the club and post our outfits and act like bad bitches in our section, right? It's a lot of tough, hard conversations, right?
Uncomfortable conversations.
The conversations that we have on this podcast, y'all should be having these conversations with your good Judies. Like,
1,000.
Y'all should be having these conversations. You should be checking your friends when you're out with your friend and or whatever. You're out with your friend and you see him talk to his partner kind of crazy. You'd be like, hey bro, that's not cool, right? What you talking about? Yeah, like it's kind of controlling. You need to chill out. Like these are the things that you have to do, and that's what true community building looks like. Because the importance of that is so when you do have a situation, you know where you can go. When I was when shit got really hard for me during the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, and like I was getting kicked out, evicted from my place, whatever. I had a friend who I called. Well, I actually didn't even tell him yet. He didn't know until he found out I was staying at an Airbnb for like a week. And he's like, what the fuck? Why didn't you come to me? Right? Mm-hmm. He's like, you can crash at my spot. You can crash at my place. Like, that's the type of friends that y'all need. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of y'all don't have real friends because y'all are more concerned about vanity and, oh, we look so good. We bad bitches. Yeah. So, like, building community, I think, is going to help a lot of this, finding those safe spaces and those safe havens.
Whew. I love this segue. This segue from this week to next week.
Listen, next week's going to be something else.
Yes.
But you know what time it is. This is your favorite part of the week, or is it the worst part, your least favorite part of the week, Justin?
But yes, y'all. Sadly, it's that time of the night where we got to leave you all. However, we will be back next week. But before we go, y'all can definitely find us on Instagram. You can find me at the Justin B. Smith on TikTok and Instagram.
You can find me in the club. It's going down. Go, Alex.
You play too much.
But you can find me on Instagram at XANDERT82. Same thing at TikTok.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Rated Ryan, RATEDRIAN.
Awesome. You can find me on Instagram. Don't follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok at It's Micah B. Yo, I got beef with Instagram. Follow me on TikTok and it's Micah B on TikTok and Twitter. You can find me at the same name on Instagram. And then once again, follow the Black Gay Agenda, okay? Follow the Black Gay Agenda on Instagram at Black Gay Agenda Pod. Make sure you interact with us. We be asking y'all questions. So when you hit that like, then hit the little comment so you can talk. Because we want this to be a safe space where y'all can have these conversations. All right. Also follow us on TikTok at Black Gay Agenda. And we are also on YouTube. So if you're listening to this and you've been like, oh, I wish I could see. Well, you can see now. So run up those views because y'all was bugging me to put it up on YouTube. So that was on YouTube. Follow Combos for the Culture on YouTube, and you just go to the Black Gay Agenda and you will see every single episode. Starting next week, though. Okay, starting next week. The episodes will premiere in full every single Tuesday. Okay, so you gotta wait a day. Okay, you gotta wait a day. They will premiere every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, every single Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, because I want to make sure that all y'all get home from work and then boom. For those of you who do work, and then boom, go ahead and you know the girls don't work nowadays. The girls don't work nowadays. Scammers.
Not you got a 9 to 5.
What is the 9 to 5?
Yo, they be shaming 9 to 5s on Twitter every single day.
Every day.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a freelancer. Leave me be.
But yeah, so just make sure that you check us out on all of those platforms and just continue to stay on this ride with us. We're going places, we're loving what we're doing, and we hope that you are too.
Yes, yes, yes. So with that being said, grab your purses, clutch your pearls. We'll see y'all next week.